Six Flags New England is a small park in Agawam, Massachusetts, right over the Connecticut border and located right on the Connecticut River. It dates back to 1870 when it was just a picnic area called Gallop's Grove, then Riverside Grove, and spent most of its life as Riverside Park, being transformed into an actual amusement park in 1912 and opening its first coaster, the Giant Dip. It remained family-owned until 1996, when it was sold to Premier Parks, who then bought Six Flags 2 years later, and as part of their massive rebranding project, its name was changed to Six Flags New England in 2000. This small park has been home to 22 coasters, 11 of them still operating today, giving it one of the biggest coaster collections in the world. Some of these are amazing, some not so much. But today, let's put all bias aside and find out which one is the tallest, fastest, longest, best paced, and rank them up based on prime ride time. These are the coasters of Six Flags New England, by the numbers. If you're new to this series, prime ride time starts when the train picks up speed off the lift and ends when it hits the final brakes. Mid-course brake runs are left in, but if they hit too hard, it can extend the ride time but hurt the pacing. With the help of Google Maps and the Pythagorean theorem, I can take out the lift, station, and brakes from the overall length, so the number on your screen will not match the number on RCDB. Lately, I've been doing this for coasters past and present, but because so many coasters are so old here, and there's no footage or even pictures, I'm only going to include a couple of them, and I'll save those for the end of the video. In 11th place with 14 seconds is Great Chase, an E&F Miler family coaster. This opened as Rolling Thunder back in 1996, geared towards being young kids' first coaster. It stands 13 feet tall, hits a top speed of 12 miles an hour, and only covers about 272 feet of track. All of these are down in last place, no surprise. But these E&F Miler family coasters are known for being aggressive, having some sharp hills and pulling some decent laterals. Its pacing actually isn't in last place, covering 19.4 feet per second, and one other coaster covers its track slower. If you know the park, I'm sure you can guess which one. In 10th place with 23 seconds is Joker, an S&S Freespin. This was the park's last new coaster, opening back in 2017, part of a massive influx of Six Flags Freespins that year. This is your standard Six Flags version, 120 feet tall, but its max drop is only at 54 feet. That's 7th place. Also 7th in speed at 38 miles an hour, and for good measure, it's 7th in pacing at 30.5 feet per second. Given how compact it is, it's surprising it ranks that well in these categories, but that's the nature of Six Flags New England. It's one of 4 coasters that has less than 1,000 feet of prime ride track, second to last at 701 feet. Like all Freespins, these are gimmicky coasters. They can't be too fast or too long, and the stats suffer. In 9th place with 31 seconds is Flashback, a Vekoma Boomerang. This started off at a park in China, moving to Kentucky Kingdom in 1990, and then moved here in 2000. This is a standard boomerang, so it covers track forward and backward, and for this video, you have to double its length. Just subtract the parts of the lift hill where you're rising up. That gives Flashback 1,720 feet of track, ranking 6. The first half is 17 seconds, the second half is 14 seconds, and you stall for 11 seconds in between, being pulled out that second spike. Those spikes are 116 feet tall, that's up at 3rd, and the train maxes out at 47 miles an hour, which is 5th. Because I stopped the clock on the second lift hill, that helps the pacing, and Flashback does it pretty well. It's 3rd place at 55.5 feet per second. In 8th place with 36 seconds is Riddler Revenge, a Vekoma SLC. This was added in 1997, then known as Mind Eraser, but it was given nice new trains in 2017, then repainted and rethemed for the 2018 season. This is a standard SLC, the most common iteration, 27 of them out there. It stands 109 feet tall, that's 4th place, tops out at just under 50 miles an hour, also 4th, and zips through 5 inversions over 1,752 feet of track, 5th place in length, also 5th in pacing. These are decent stat-wise, pretty tall, fast, and long on a compact plot of land, and for such a compact ride, 36 seconds of ride time is also pretty good. In 7th place with 38 seconds is Batman the Dark Knight, a B&M Flowless. For the first time in this video, we have an actual custom model at this park. Dark Knight is not a cookie-cutter clone, but it is one of the smaller custom B&M Flowless coasters. At this park, it looks more like a big fish in a small pond. It's up at 2nd place in height and speed, standing 118 feet tall, hitting 55 miles an hour. Then it goes into a 5 inversion course, covering 2,150 feet of track, which is 3rd. And with no mid-course brake run, its pacing really thrives. second place in the park at 56.6 feet per second. This is a good, underrated floorless, and it fits in very well at a park like this. In 6th place with 39 seconds is Catwoman's Whip, a Zero Tivoli. This is a step up from the Great Chase, a true family coaster with 2 big sweeping figure 8s, covering almost exactly 1,000 feet of prime ride track. That's good for 8th. It has those big, majestic 20-car trains that seat 40 riders, and that looks awesome off-ride. This opened in 2000 as Poison Ivy's Tangled Train, changing its name to another female DC comic character. It only stands 26 feet tall, that's second to last. Hits about 22 miles an hour, also second to last. And those big trains may be pretty, but they don't cater to good pacing. This is third to last at 25.6 feet per second. In 5th place with 41 seconds is Pandemonium, a Gerstlauer spinning coaster. This was added in 2005, opening as Mr. Six's Pandemonium, but that only lasted 2 years. These spinners are mild enough for kids, but offer enough thrill for people like me to enjoy. Just like Joker, it's more of a gimmicky ride, focusing on the spinning so it can't be a stat monster. It stands 42 feet tall, but it has a bunch of small drops, winding its way to the ground. But that 42 feet is good for 9th place. Its max speed of 31 miles an hour finishing 8th. It wraps around over 1,100 feet of track, that's 7th place, featuring a small mid-course brake run, but that doesn't do a whole lot to slow the train down. Still, the way it starts off slow and picks up speed as it works its way to the ground, its pacing is down in 8th place. In 4th place with 48 seconds is Thunderbolt, a Baker and Traver wooden coaster. This is the park's oldest remaining coaster, opening in 1941 as Cyclone. In fact, the next oldest coaster is from 1996, so this has the record by a long shot. This isn't even a park original. For 2 years, it operated at the World's Fair in Flushing, New York. Then it found its way over here. This is a very compact figure 8 layout, 70 feet tall, topping out at 40 miles an hour, both right in the middle in 6th place. It covers just over 1,800 feet of track, but that's still good for 4th place in the park. And despite its slow sweeping turns, it's still 6th in pacing, right between Riddler Revenge and Joker. In 3rd place with 54 seconds is Wicked Cyclone, an RMC hybrid. When Six Flags decided to turn their old Cyclone coaster into a hybrid, RMC didn't have a lot to work with. Sometimes they add more height to the lift hill, but they didn't do that for Wicked Cyclone. It stands 109 feet tall, 5th in the park, but hits 55 miles an hour at the bottom of that drop. That's tied for 2nd with Batman the Dark Knight. It doesn't have the height of a lot of other RMCs, but RMC went with a 3rd lap around the course, instead of cutting the ride short. This extends its length to 2,735 feet, 2nd place in the park, but still over 2,000 feet shy of number 1. Wicked Cyclone gets a lot of grief over its pacing, and sometimes that 3rd lap can really run slow. It depends on the time of day, how many people are on the train, and also the year the POV was shot. They seem to do something to it in 2021, making it run faster than it had before. I have this 4th place in pacing, 50.6 feet per second. That's better than Riddler Revenge, but it's actually behind Flashback. Again, the ride time and the pacing aren't always going to be the same, but the POV I watched gave me these stats, so take them with a grain of salt. In 2nd place with 60 seconds is Gotham City Gauntlet Escape from Arkham Asylum, a Mara Wild Mouse. We see it almost every time. A wild mouse comes up at the top of this list, and it's the same old story. Long ride, but its pacing is absolutely devastating. Gotham City Gauntlet is no exception. You get a full minute of ride time, but you're only averaging 16.5 feet per second, about 3 feet per second behind Great Chase. That's down in last place. This started off at Kentucky Kingdom, and when Six Flags was offered to save one coaster before handing the park over to the State Fair Board, they chose this one, sending it to New England for the 2011 season. There are 16 of these Mara mice in the world, and they're all about the same. Some just start off turning right, others start off turning left. It stands 49 feet tall, good for 8th. It doesn't have a big drop, so like the Joker and Pandemonium, it picks up speed as it winds to the ground, using lots of trims to control that speed, maxing out at 28 miles an hour and ranking 9th. It's also 9th in length at 989 feet. In 1st place with 71 seconds is Superman the Ride, an Intamin mega coaster. You want to know how crazy Premier Parks went in the late 90s and early 2000s? This little park got one of the biggest coasters in the country, and one that would be hailed as the best in the world for many years. This opened as Superman Ride of Steel, rethemed to Bizarro in 2009, adopting its current name in 2016. It stands 208 feet tall, dropping right along the river into a tunnel, maxing out at 221 feet, which is 1st place, more than 100 feet better than the 2nd place Batman the Dark Knight. It maxes out at 77 miles an hour, again topping Batman by a full 22 miles an hour. And as I mentioned with Wicked Cyclone, the number 1 coaster had more than 2,000 extra feet of track, Superman finishing with 4,779. To complete the sweep, it covers 67.3 feet per second, almost 11 feet per second better than Batman in second place. Superman almost seems out of place here, such a beast of a coaster, and one of the great layouts in coaster history. Now, as I promised, let's look at two of their defunct coasters and see how they would have ranked up. Let's start with Goliath, the Vekoma giant inverted boomerang, moving here from Magic Mountain for the 2012 season. People hated this coaster for being rough, but it was huge. Like every boomerang, it had two sections, forward and back, and the first part was 21 seconds, the second was 20 seconds, so 41 seconds would put it in a tie for 6th place with Pandemonium. Those big vertical spikes are 177 feet tall. That would have easily landed it in 2nd place. Same for the top speed of 61.5 miles an hour. Again, we need to double the track length. Subtract the lift hill portion of the spikes, and we're left with 2,231 feet of track. That would have been 4th place. Between those two sections, there was about a 9-second gap, but I took that out when timing the ride. This brings his pacing all the way up to 4th place, but interestingly, still not better than Flashback. That still has it by about a foot per second. One other defunct coaster, Cyclone, a William Cobb wooden coaster. This was built in 1983 and closed in 2014 to convert it into Wicked Cyclone. This was a long ride, 65 seconds in total. That would have been good for 2nd place. It stood 112 feet tall, but its first drop was split up into 2 sections, dropping some, doing a 180, and then dropping the rest. That 112-foot height being good for 5th, but only hit 45 miles an hour, which would have been 7th. It would cover almost 3,000 feet of track, putting it up at 2nd, over 200 feet more than Wicked Cyclone currently has. Finally, but not surprisingly, its pacing kinda suffers. It's a long ride without much speed, and it had some high turnarounds where the train really slowed down. So, at 45.3 feet per second, it would have landed in 7th place, right behind Riddler Revenge. That's a wrap on the coasters of Six Flags New England, by the numbers. Let me know if anything here surprised you, or confirmed something you already knew. I figured Gotham City Gauntlet would do what Wild Mouse coasters always do, and it did not disappoint. I was a bit surprised that Superman was so much better than everything else in every category, but when you think about it, it's not that surprising. This park has a lot of coasters, but most of them are either small or they're clones. But in the end, for my money, they have the best 1-2 punch in the country, so that's something to be proud of. If you enjoyed this video, please drop a like, and if you're new here and love coasters, please consider giving me a sub. I have a playlist with other videos in this format. Also, check out my links below for my Discord server, and my second channel where I post copyright-free off-ride footage, and my baseball channel if you also happen to be a baseball fan. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time.